Hey, folks, welcome to a special off schedule episode of the Agency Freedom Podcast. We help insurance professionals move from captivity to freedom. And the reason for this episode is that I have become aware that a lot of our listening audience may be exposed to a danger that I don't believe we've ever explicitly talked about on the podcast. We have talked about the subject of cyber liability and data breach coverage, but I don't think I've ever explicitly made the statement that so many of our listening audience that are still on the captive side of distribution, whether it's State Farm, Farmers, Allstate, Farm Bureau, AmFam, wherever you are in the country, whatever company you're currently representing, as well as a lot of early stage and maybe even long tenured agencies that have not taken out a standalone cyber liability and data breach policy. This episode is a public service announcement because I was reflecting on what happened with the Mr. Cooper breach. Very large mortgage loan originator and servicer. A couple of weeks ago, as I record this, they had a huge breach and their entire system was impacted to the point that millions of people were not able to log on to the system and pay their mortgages on November 1st. And reflecting on that and having some other conversations with peers in the industry, it became clear to me that a lot of captive agents, exclusive agents, as well as a lot of our peers that are early on in their agency principal journey, may not be aware of the limitations around endorsed coverage of cyber liability and data breach. I dropped a landing page on my Riskwell website. We're going to make that available in the show notes here that walks you through the 8 coverage items that are not covered when you have your cyber liability and data breach coverage on your business owner's policy. Why is this particularly concerning? Because the carriers that most of you guys that are on the exclusive side of distribution have your policies through for your office, for your insurance agency. They're written through the carrier that you represent. Of course, it makes sense. None of these carriers have standalone cyber liability or data breach insurance products. They don't make them available. And in the case of multiple State Farm agents that I spoke with, they didn't just not make it available to the State Farm agent to purchase a cyber liability and data breach policy. They actively prohibit in writing the State Farm agent from purchasing it on their own through a third party. And the State Farm takes some additional security measures like having on-site servers and locally hosted certain things that are very different than how some of the other carriers operate. From what I heard, talking to these State Farm agents saying, hey, do you have a standalone cyber liability insurance policy? Do you have standalone data breach coverage? Or is it just via endorsement on your BOP? Now, I'm not going to go into the details here. If you care about being properly protected, visit the link in the description or go out and research it on your own. If you want to go through Riskwell, we do a ton of this stuff. I'm perfectly happy to help out my peers and listening audience with a cyber policy for your insurance agency. So we made it super easy for you to get a standalone cyber policy if that's something that you're interested in. We represent 9 of the top 10 cyber and data breach carriers and programs in the country. The only one that we don't is not available to any agent because it's a house program. But if you don't go through Riskwell, please go somewhere and get yourself a standalone cyber liability and data breach policy. A few of the items that we talk about on this landing page, I recorded a video. It's sitting up there ready to go, is ransomware and system restoration and regulatory fines and penalties, social engineering, fraudulent transfer, where if somebody fakes out someone on your team and gets them to give up their passwords or gets them to pay a fake invoice, gets them to send money somewhere they shouldn't be, notification expenses in the event of a breach. You may not know that you have to pay a fine in the event that something happens with your system or might have had a breach. If you have a suspected breach, you have to report that to every single person in your database. That can get out of hand really, really quickly. So I owed it to my listening audience to make sure that you are aware you really need to be buying a standalone cyber policy for your office. As an insurance agent, you have a treasure trove of data in your systems. And if you look at the agreements that you have with your third-party technology providers, including the carrier that provides you your tech platform, they pass the liability on to you so that you have responsibility for handling things that happen at your agency. And the problem is, if you're buying your cyber liability and data breach coverage as an endorsement on your business owner's policy, you have several major gaps that need to be filled. And that's really all there is to it. If you already have a cyber liability and data breach policy on a standalone basis, you're probably good. Happy to have a conversation with you. If you want to give me a shout, we can walk through some of the things together. There's a little bit of nuance and deep in the weeds stuff that we can help you with to make sure that you've optimized that coverage. But whether you get it from Riskwell or you get it somewhere else, I owed it to you guys to make sure that I brought it up and raised my hand and said, please, for the love, make sure you have a standalone policy that is not sitting on an endorsement level on your BOP. Because there's so many different ways that that can end up really bad for your agency. And I would hate to see that, especially since I didn't bring it up until today. So check the link in the show note or visit riskwell.com/cyberinsurance for insurance agents. That is where the link is. Check out the show notes. And I'm going to be posting this on social media as well to make sure we get as many people aware of this gap in coverage, because I was kind of shocked to find out that of the 4 agents that I spoke to, none of them had a standalone cyber liability and data breach policy. And that is appalling. That is just a complete breakdown in these carriers and their educating of you as the agency force. I don't have any expectation that our Captivating exclusive agent peers should know about this, because it's not something that you're actively selling. Your carrier doesn't even offer the product. You have to go outside of your carrier to find out anything about standalone cyber and data breach coverage. And that's really it. I know this is a super short episode. I wanted to make sure that this got out. For those of you watching on our YouTube channel, hi, glad to see you there. Please engage in the comment section if there's anything that I can assist you with. Happy to connect offline and make sure that this happens. So that is really all there is to talk about in this episode. And make it a great day, boys and girls. Hope you get protected. If you're not already there, we can help you if you'd like. Check the show notes for that. And that's it. Make it a great day, boys and girls. We'll talk to you again real soon. Y'all take care.